Sayo was a loser who was rejected every day by his crush. However, when he suddenly stopped simping her, she suddenly becomes obsessed with having his attention back. Now he will become a Sigma and make her beg for his sausage instead. On the day everything changed, Sayo was at school, relentlessly chasing after Aika Natsukawa. He follows her through the school grounds, begging her to walk with him, but she ignores him and calls him an annoying simp. Suddenly, a stray ball comes flying in his direction. A strange shock runs through his brain, fundamentally changing the atmosphere. Aika asks if he is okay, and Sayo confirms that he is. She then tells him that if he hadn't been acting like a weird fart sniffer, this wouldn't have happened. As Aika walks away, Sayo decides to stop chasing Aika and become a normal person from now on. The next day, Sayo enters the classroom, and the change in his behavior is immediate. Aika's best friend, Kaya Shida, mentions hearing that Sayo received divine punishment from his longtime crush. Aika tells her to stop making it weird, but Sayo takes the humiliation like a gentleman. Moments later, the teacher also arrives and is taken aback by Sayo's sudden change. The infamous simp is sitting happily in his chair instead of his usual routine of bothering Aika. Aika realizes that she's missing the attention she received from Sayo in the past. During the break, Sayo casually walks down the hallway, ignoring his longtime crush, but he is suddenly pulled aside by his friends, who ask what's wrong between him and Aika. Sayo explains that he no longer wants to pursue Aika. However, they demand to know the truth behind this imaginary breakup. Sayo clarifies that he still likes Aika, but now, he wants to sniff her from a distance. Back in the classroom, as Sayo gets ready to leave for lunch, Aika asks where he is going. He simply replies that he is heading to the cafeteria by himself. His friends find this attitude incredibly strange, as the Sayo they know would have been on the floor begging Aika to urinate on his face. Seeing this drastic shift, they begin to believe that Sayo has finally gotten tired of being rejected. While eating alone during the break, a girl from the neighboring class, Reena Aizawa, interrupts him. She sits next to Sayo and tries to start a conversation, but he is not in the mood for dialogue. Surprisingly, Reena does not take this personally and leaves him alone. The next day, one of his friends approaches him and informs him that he has a visitor. It's Reena herself, approaching with the same cheerful energy as the day before. Sayo finds her behavior unnatural, questioning if she has recently transitioned from being a dude. However, his friend thinks Reena is a good match for him, and tries to knock some sense into his head. Just then, Aika appears in the room with Ashita. Sayo tries to talk to her, but she answers him with rude stare. She drops her things on her desk and immediately leaves the room. In physical education class, Sayo gets distracted watching Aika and stands there like a mascot. He ends up compromising his whole team and is forced to apologize to them. Afterward, Ashita talks to him about Reena Aizawa, revealing that she was very attached to her ex-boyfriend Arimura just a few days ago. Apparently, Reena had been riding Arimura's sausage since their first year of high school. Later, the nosy Sayo decides to see this ex-boyfriend for himself. He overhears Arimura telling his friends that the woman he wants to bang next is Aika Natsukawa. Back in the classroom, Ashita mockingly asks Sayo if he is thinking about Reena. He claims that he wants to ask Reena something important, but suddenly, this little girl enters their classroom. Since Reena has no social anxiety, she joins the three of them. However, Ashita immediately asks her why she broke up with her ex, making it awkward for everyone. Reena is amazed at the question, since nobody knew about her breakup, but she explains that she was not capable of gobbling up Arimura's gigantic flagpole. Ashita replies that he must not have good hygiene, and that things will get better now that she has Sayo. Just then, Aika chimes in, thinking Ashita is going too far with the insults. Reena feels attacked by their comments, so she yells at Ashita and leaves the room. Sayo immediately goes after her to apologize, while the girls sit there like a couple of frozen mannequins. Sayo meets her at the park and tries to calm this young buckaroo. As they chat, Reena notes a curious fact. Sayo doesn't usually talk about Aika around her. He explains that it would be unethical to talk about other girls in her presence. However, Reena insists on talking about it and asks him directly if he likes Aika. Sayo says yes, but he feels awkward about it because Aika has been rejecting him from day one. Since the conversation is getting a little awkward, he changes the subject and asks about her riding skills. Reena reveals that she likes the reversed position, but since Arimura only liked boring stuff, they had to break up. To get revenge, she decided to ride other flagpoles, but her actions only caused more misunderstandings. To make her feel better, Sayo shares a story about being rejected multiple times in his life. He begins a dramatic tale about how he was chasing a girl who slapped him in public, and at that moment, Aika came to his rescue, which sparked his attraction to her. While Reena is shocked by this story, Sayo admits he was just trolling. The truth was much simpler. He fell in the cafeteria, and Aika reached out to help him. From that moment, he never forgot her kindness and became a lunatic for her. The next morning at school, Reena Aizawa is back together with her ex-boyfriend. Ashita feels bad for Sayo, lamenting that he got rejected by Aika and this little girl in the same week. Feeling bad for him, the two girls decide to comfort this little simp. However, they are shocked to find Sayo surprisingly calm, as he never wanted to sniff Reena's armpits. Later that day, while Sayo is alone in his home, he realizes that Aika's fart is way out of his league and accepts his fate. But just as he convinces himself to move on, he notices Aika outside his house. Sayo invites her inside, and the two take seats like senators. Aika explains that she is here to understand what was going on with him. Sayo's complete change in behavior was so abnormal that it worried her. In a moment of old habit, Sayo tells her that he wants to sniff her armpits, but this freaks Aika out even more. Just as he is about to clarify, he is interrupted by his older sister Kaede. Sayo quickly explains that Aika was just there to discuss some school matters, and was about to leave. As he walks Arata home, she asks him what he was about to say before his sister arrived. Taking a deep breath, Sayo tells her that he was going to say how he would stop chasing her from now on. While Arata remains disheartened, he jokingly asks if she has any hot friends she could introduce him to. This causes the jealous girl to lose her mind, and she runs off into the night. The following day, Sayo moves his seat away from Aika's. When Ashita asks him about his seating arrangement, Sayo claims that he is happy because he wants to give Aika some space. However, she tells him that he can't just walk away and needs to take responsibility for Aika's life. Ashita explains that his constant presence around Aika had created a bubble, making other students avoid her. His pursuit had left Aika socially isolated, with Ashita as her only real friend. This realization is devastating to Sayo. His personal mission to grab Aika's airbags had been nothing more than a selfish pursuit. A painful understanding settles over him, so he decides to completely remove himself from her orbit to give her the space she needs to build friendships. As the bell rings for the break, Sayo observes Aika from his new distant desk and is struck by a wave of guilt. Just then, one of his friends approaches, commenting on how he looks like a convicted forced lover and asking why he's not running after Aika anymore. The question solidifies Sayo's thoughts. Aika wasn't alone by choice. She had no other option because his constant presence had driven everyone else away. Firm in his resolve to correct his mistake, he walks out for the break, needing to clear his already empty head. As he reflects on everything, Sayo suddenly comes face to face with Rin Shinomiya, the president of the school's Public Morals Committee. She immediately scolds him, referencing the day he had scared one of her junior members. Sayo remembers the incident clearly. While chasing after Reena Aizawa, he had bumped into a shy girl carrying a stack of papers. He offers a sincere apology, as his intention was not to hurt the little girl. Shinomiya clarifies that she doesn't believe he had any malicious intent. Despite this, Sayo continues to apologize like a sad Jordan Peterson, and gets ready to leave, but Shinomiya stops him. She explains that the girl he scared, Yuanami, is a hard-working but pessimistic member of her committee. Sayo tries to leave again, but Shinomiya grabs him and takes him to her office. There, she explains that Yuanami lacks confidence, especially around men. Shinomiya also confesses her own struggles as a leader. Her attempts to encourage her team often backfire, as they feel they can never live up to her high standards, which only makes them feel worse. Sayo listens intently and then offers a surprisingly wise piece of advice. He suggests that Shinomiya should occasionally give her team members a surprise pole dance event to lift their spirits. They need to know that their leader is confident in her body and mind at all times. Shinomiya is taken aback by his insight, realizing he's smarter than he looks. Sayo also advises her to praise her team's efforts and show sympathy for their struggles, rather than just telling them to be as good as her. Moments later, as Sayo gets ready to leave, she asks for his name. However, he gives her a fake one, Yamazaki, hoping to remain anonymous. The next morning, Sayo is leaving his house with his older sister, Kaede. She asks if he has spoken to Aika since her visit the other night. He replies that they've only had normal classmate conversations. Kaede criticizes his approach, telling him he'll never get laid if he acts like a wuss. Just then, they spot Aika up ahead. Kaede offers to carry his luggage and urges him to go have a proper conversation. So he catches up to Aika, and they exchange a few stiff formal words like corporate drones. As they arrive at school, Ashita yells at him from the stairs, claiming that Shinomiya is pissed at him for lying. She's already inside his classroom, waiting for him to come by. Just as they are discussing how to deal with this, Shinomiya approaches him. She greets him as Yamazaki, then reveals that she knows about his lie. She tells Sayo that she wants to have a chat during the lunch break. As she leaves, the real Yamazaki appears behind him, angry that he used his name and got him involved. However, Sayo smoothly convinces the guy that Shinomiya is attracted to him, causing him to let go of his temper. During the break, Sayo brings some snacks to Shinomiya's office as a peace offering. He finds Yuanami in the room as well and offers them the snacks. When Shinomiya asks why he lied, Sayo explains that having his name marked by the head of the Public Morals Committee seemed like a bad idea. Then, Shinomiya points out that he threw his friend under the bus, but Sayo explains that Yamazaki is attracted to her juggernauts and does not mind the attention. Before the conversation can get more awkward, Sayo tries to leave. However, the girls stop him, and Yu offers her own apology. She explains that she was scared the day they bumped into each other and misunderstood a lot of things. She even admits that she needs to work on her fear of men. Fed up with the moist weirdness in the room, Sayo simply wishes her good luck and leaves the room. As he walks down the hall, he glances into another classroom and sees Aika surrounded by a group of girls, laughing and making new friends. A wave of relief washes over him. His plan was working like he expected. Just then, Sayo receives a message from Kaede, asking for his help in the student council room. As he leaves, Aika notices him. It turns out that Kaede needs assistance gathering materials for the upcoming summer school tour. Sayo goes to the student council room, and the siblings decide to work together. He proves to be extremely good at administrative tasks, which impresses Kaede's teammates. They all praise his efficiency and hard work, as if he's rescuing a cat from a burning building. Back in the classroom, Aika seems to be getting along well with her new friends. One of them suggests they should go to her house on the weekend to meet her cute little sister. As they make their moronic plans, Sayo walks into the classroom. Ashita calls out to him, asking if he wants to come to Aika's house too. Sticking to his role as a distant supporter, Sayo gives a dramatic refusal, saying that a mere mortal like him could never enter the sacred residence of a goddess. Hearing this, Aika retorts that she wouldn't let her sister near him anyway. Later, as Aika's friends finalize the plan for the weekend visit, she glances over at Sayo, who seems completely uninterested. She quietly walks up behind him, mustering the courage to ask if he's really not going to come. But just as she is about to speak, Shinomiya appears out of nowhere and interrupts her plan. She urgently needs to talk to Sayo, leaving Aika slightly disappointed. Shinomiya explains that a new problem has arisen. Yu is now depressed because she thinks Sayo has not accepted her apology. His attention is now completely stolen from Aika, as Shinomiya asks for his real opinion on Yu's actions. Being a fake pragmatist, Sayo explains that Yu should stop acting like a whiny little brat and listen to some David Goggins. Shinomiya finds his suggestion interesting, and at last Sayo gets to leave the room. Summer arrives in Tokyo, bringing a sweltering heat that makes the students moist in all parts of their bodies. As Sayo steps into his classroom, he feels a wave of immense relief. An air conditioner has been installed. Just as he's enjoying the chill, Kei Ashita appears, greeting him cheerfully. However, Sayo immediately feels uncomfortable, commenting on her inappropriate clothing. Ashita just rolls her eyes, reminding him that it's the school's official summer uniform. Sayo claims that her knocker boots appear bigger than before and mocks her. He then glances at Arata and notices she looks breathtakingly beautiful. Sayo asks Ashita about the weekend gathering at Arata's house, but before she can get into it, the teacher arrives and tells everyone to take their freaking seats. During class, Ashita is going through the pictures from the weekend. While they had a good time, she noticed Aika wasn't fully enjoying herself, as if she was looking for Sayo to arrive. Later, Ashita tells him to talk to Aika, but Sayo remains true to his decision, saying he must give her the space she needs to build meaningful friendships. After class, Sayo's friend Sasaki approaches him, eager to talk about the weekend. He pulls out his phone and shows him pictures from the party at Aika's house. As Sayo scrolls through, his friend comments on how cute Aika's little sister is. Sayo agrees and, without hesitation, forwards the pictures to Sasaki's sister, making it seem like he likes Aika's little sister more than her. This is what happens when two Twitch streamers meet in real life. When the lunch break begins, Sayo is preparing to eat his meal in solitude when his friend Yamazaki spots him. Yamazaki insists he join his group, which includes a loudmouth girl named Koga. He then pulls Sayo over to a table of annoying girls from their class. Koga immediately comments on how quiet Sayo has been lately, asking if he has erectile dysfunction. The group's conversation quickly turns to his relationship with Aika. Sayo threatens Yamazaki for putting him in this weird situation. However, Koga bluntly asks if they've ever slept together, to which Sayo dryly replies that he doesn't even know where her house is. Hearing this, Yamazaki starts teasing Sayo. When he angrily yells at Yamazaki, the girls then ask about his brief connection with Reena Aizawa, but before he can answer their thirsty little question, Aika appears in front of him. Without a word to anyone else, she grabs a surprised Sayo by the arm and pulls him away, leaving everyone shocked. He is completely bewildered, trying to figure out what he could have possibly done to make her so mad. As he lands hopelessly on the floor, Aika approaches him closely, asking what he was doing talking to those girls. She shyly admits that she is slightly jealous of him talking to them. A light bulb goes off in Sayo's head as he finally understands the reason for her anger. But realizing she's shown too much, Aika tells him not to get the wrong idea, and quickly runs off, leaving Sayo's ping-pong balls dry once again. Later, Ashita pokes him in the back, asking what happened. Sayo explains Aika's bizarre behavior, how she was angry at him for talking to other girls during lunch. While Ashita listens to his incoherent ramblings, Sayo comes to a startling conclusion. Aika wants to get flipped and railed. Just as he's reflecting on this, a member of the student council, a handsome upperclassman, approaches and asks to speak with him. The upperclassman has heard about Sayo's years-long obsession with a girl and is curious why he suddenly stopped. Sayo gives a vague answer about not wanting to sniff her farts anymore. However, the upperclassman reveals the real reason he's there: Sayo's sister Kaede. It turns out that she is incredibly worried about his sudden change in personality. Kaede believes she is to blame because when Sayo was young, Kaede often made harsh, depressing comments to him. She called him a low-level person, but now she is consumed with guilt. Kaede thinks that her words are the reason for his current sadness. Sayo is shocked to hear that his sister is complaining about something for the first time ever. He learns that this upperclassman has already arranged for them to talk it out on the school rooftop, like in Crow Zero. As the two walk through the hallway, Sayo asks him why he's helping him fix his family drama. The senior vaguely hints that Kaede saved him from losing his mind last year, and he now wants to return the favor by helping her. As they continue chatting, Aika and Ashita are seen stalking Sayo's buttocks from a distance. On the roof, Sayo finds Kaede waiting for him like a depressed Serizawa. To test how much she really pays attention to him, Sayo challenges her to list 10 of his good qualities. She starts panicking, unable to name a single one. However, when he asks her to list 10 of his common, ordinary traits, Kaede rattles off more than 10 with ease. With this, Sayo gets the confirmation he needs. He tells her not to blame herself for his inability to get laid. He explains that even though she was always rude to him, she was only speaking the truth. Since he is just an ordinary guy, he gave up his pursuit of Aika on his own. Sayo tells her he doesn't want a fake kind sister and likes her just the way she is, the sister who asks for favors without saying thank you and sprawls on the sofa like she owns the place. For her to be nice would just be weird and boring. Their intense conversation is suddenly interrupted by the arrival of Aika and Ishida, who had apparently been listening to their conversation. Aika immediately gets angry at Sayo for the way he spoke to his sister and demands that he apologize. However, Sayo ignores this thirsty girl and her shenanigans. He looks directly at her and asks a simple, pointed question. Why was she on the rooftop in the first place? The question hits its mark, and Aika realizes that she has become the very stalker she used to despise. Flushed with embarrassment, she declares it was just a coincidence, and runs away yet again. Kaede also decides to leave, calling him an idiot before she goes. At last, their sibling relationship is seemingly back to its normal, dysfunctional state. Later that evening, Sayo arrives home, where Kaede is lying on the sofa. He tries to make a peace offering, and hands her a snack as a way of apologizing for being rude on the rooftop. Kaede accepts it, and immediately starts complaining about something while she eats. As the two argue, their mother looks at them with a gentle smile on her face. Finding her behavior amusing, Sayo mockingly records her with his phone as she chews, taking pictures to tease her. This results in Kaede losing her temper, and she lands a decisive punch on his face. The following day, Aika and Ishida are in the cafeteria, reflecting on the weekend get-together. Aika admits to feeling a little jealous that her younger sister became so attached to her friends so quickly. However, Ishida knows the real issue, and steers the conversation to the actual problem, Sayo and his biological instrument. She points out how sad Aika was that he didn't show up at her house. Ishida suggests that feeling loved and admired is a good thing, and Sayo's constant attention had become a place where Aika felt she belonged. But now that he has stopped being a creep, that sense of belonging has vanished, leaving a stinking void between her legs. Aika tries to brush it off, but her friend keeps pushing. Ishida then gives her some solid advice. If she wants to get Sayo's attention back, she cannot just wait for him to change his mind. She needs to grab her non-existent balls and take the initiative herself. Meanwhile, at the Sayo residence, Sayo and his sister Kaede are having breakfast. She looks at his hair, which has grown out and is now a messy lump of hair like a pit bull's disgusting groin's discarded sack. She comments that it looks awful, but Sayo doesn't seem to care about his appearance anymore. Kaede reminds him of how he used to be so meticulous, almost obsessive about his looks. On the way to school, Sayo reflects on the hair comment, realizing he only took care of his appearance because he was trying to impress this Aika chick. Now that he has decided not to follow her anymore, he sees no reason to bother. Arriving at school, he greets Aika and Ishida with a formal, almost mocking tone, calling Aika a normal classmate. This earns him a swift kick in the leg from Ishida, who tells him to drop the act. He asks if they got home safely after their girls' outing yesterday, and they chat for a moment like normal friends. Later, Aika tries to approach him as he's about to leave for his break, but he doesn't seem to notice and heads out, leaving her standing there. Sayo finds a secluded spot in the school compound, intending to enjoy his lunch in peace. However, his solitude is short-lived. He finds the entire Public Morals Committee group sitting at the next table. Shinomiya spots him and insists he join them, hoping she gets some of that barbecue action at night. Yu also calls him over, so he reluctantly agrees to sit down with them. During their meal, Sayo is surprised to see how much Yu has changed. She is far less insecure and more confident. The conversation is pleasant, and Shinomiya expresses her sincere gratitude to Sayo. She explains that he was the essential catalyst for Yu's newfound confidence, helping her see that men can be kind. Furthermore, Shinomiya reveals that his advice, to pat her teammates on the back and support them, had a profound effect, strengthening her bond with Yu and making her a better leader. She tells Sayo that he is extremely valuable to this school, and that he should act more confidently. Furthermore, Shinomiya mentions that he does not seem like Kaede's brother at all, having known his sister since their first year of school. Upon returning to the classroom, Sayo is confronted by his friend Sasaki, who looks strangely tense. He is upset because Sayo had sent the picture of him with Aika's little sister to his own sister, Yuki, who has been tormenting him about it ever since. After getting his frustration out, Sasaki pulls Sayo aside to talk privately. With a serious expression, he makes a stunning confession. He wants to clap Aika's Doritos. Sayo is taken aback, but his reaction isn't one of anger or jealousy. Instead, a quiet understanding settles over him. He reflects on the situation with surprising maturity. Aika is a girl far above his own level, and she deserves someone who is her equal. He sees Sasaki as that person. He's handsome, popular, plays football, and has many good qualities. He comes to the conclusion that Sasaki might just be the man for Aika, especially since he is also an infamous fart sniffer in the community. With a sense of resignation, Sayo believes he did the right thing by staying away from her. Sayo starts feeling a sense of rejection and hides in the washroom. He later notices Sasaki walking with Aika and Ishida and feels a pang of heartbreak. As he's getting his things to leave school for the day, Aika appears behind him. When Sayo asks her if she wants to go home with him, she gently nods her head. Later, Aika asks him where he disappears to during breaks, and he tells her he eats in the cafeteria. She then asks why he always eats alone, and he reveals that he ate with the committee girls today. Aika's face darkens with a hint of jealousy. What she really wants is for Sayo to eat with her and then eat her afterwards. However, Sayo tells her he doesn't want to spoil the new dynamic she has with her friends and Sasaki. As they head down the stairs, Aika comments on the disgusting lump of abomination of hair he has and asks him to fix it. Sayo asks her for an opinion, and she simply says it doesn't matter. But when Sayo insists on getting a response, Aika seductively approaches him and mentions that if his hair had been black when they first met, she never would have spoken to him. Taking her indirect advice to heart, he goes home and attempts to dye his hair a dark brown. His sister Kaide finds him in the bathroom doing a terrible job and takes over, shaking his head around like she's trying to unalive him. Afterwards, she tells Sayo to wait a couple of days for the color to set properly. Sometime later, the results for the midterm exams are posted. Sayo looks at his own ranking and sees it has dropped drastically. He realizes that his primary motivation for studying was his desperate need to be close to Aika. Now that the primary focus is gone, his grades have suffered. As Sayo stands there, he looks over the results again and sees Aika's name. Her performance has done the opposite of his. She has improved dramatically, soaring to second place in their year. A painful thought strikes him. All this time, he was the one holding her back. He looks over and sees her talking and laughing with her friends. Just then, Sasaki approaches him and reveals that he is in 29th place. At this moment, Sayo realizes that Sasaki is not only handsome and popular, but also a great student. This confirms Sayo's deepest insecurities, solidifying the belief that he had made the right choice to step aside. The next day at school, Aika is the center of attention as her new friends eagerly plan their summer vacation. As they chat, Sasaki asks if she intends to invite Sayo as well. The other girls speculate that it must be hard for him to approach Aika now that she's so popular. Sayo overhears this from his desk and simply leaves the classroom, walking down the hallway by himself. On his way, his attention is caught by 3 Miley Cyruses, who are staring strangely at Aika through the doorway. Driven by a protective instinct, Sayo confronts them, asking what they want with her. The suddenness of his approach startles Marika, who lets out a high-pitched scream before regaining her composure. Marika, the leader of the squad, insults him for chasing such a beautiful goddess like Aika. However, Sayo simply smirks and makes fun of her stupid scream, which causes the girls to get annoyed and leave. The commotion brings Aika out to see what's going on. Sayo quickly dismisses the incident, telling her it was just 3 girls who were ovulating and throwing tantrums at him. The next day, Tokyo experiences heavy rainfall in the morning. Sayo and Aika are walking separately on their way to school when they happen to bump into each other. The nonchalant stud continues walking, while Aika runs after him like a digger of golds. Just then, Sayo notices a car speeding towards a large puddle right beside her. Without a second thought, he lunges in front of her and saves Aika from getting splashed with dirty water. As he stands there, soaked with disgusting poop-infested water, Aika is left flustered. Sayo arrives at class, drenched to the bone and shivering. Feeling responsible and worried, Aika offers him her handkerchief. Yamazaki tries to tease him and offers his sweaty handkerchief as well. But just then, Sayo slumps onto his desk and passes out cold. He wakes up sometime later to the sound of the teacher droning on about the Third World War. Sayo has an intense headache and can barely open his eyes. Ashita notices this and tries to talk to him. Just then, the teacher sees the commotion and approaches his table. Realizing he looks like Joe Biden right now, she gives him permission to go to the infirmary. However, as Sayo stands and tries to walk, his legs buckle, and he collapses onto the floor right in front of the classroom door. As his classmates rush to help, Sayo's mind drifts into his past. He had always tried to hide his emotions from the world, hoping to cover his insecurities. But just as he thinks all hope is lost, Aika comes to his rescue with her shiny thighs. Later in the infirmary, the nurse tells a worried Aika and Ashita that Sayo has a high fever. She explains that his condition is likely due to a combination of getting soaked by poop water and severe deficiency of female touch. The girls peek through the curtain at a sleeping Sayo, while Aika is clearly worried about him. Since Sayo needs to rest to recover, the nurse sends them back to class. Moments later, the nurse checks in on Sayo, who has regained consciousness. He wants to go to class, but she tells him to shut his filthy infected mouth and rest for a little longer. Meanwhile, Aika can't seem to concentrate in class and keeps thinking about the diseased boy. After school, the 2 girls walk through the hallway, carrying Sayo's bag in their hands. Ashita suggests they take a peek inside to see what he carries around, but Aika gets possessive and tells her to respect Sayo's privacy. They then go to the infirmary, only to find the nurse has already left for home. As they look inside the curtain, a weak and pale Sayo is looking out the window. The girls approach him, and Aika apologizes. She blames herself for him getting sick and moves closer, but Sayo shouts at her to stay back, afraid he'll pass the poop disease on to her. Just as they are about to leave for home, they run into Kaede and Shinomiya, who have also come to visit. All 4 girls enter the infirmary to see the stud, who looks increasingly depressed with his situation. Kaede and Shinomiya both place their hands on his forehead to check his temperature. Their open concern ignites a look of displeasure and jealousy on Aika's face. The next day, Sayo does not go to school, and Aika hates herself for missing him. That evening, as Sayo is resting, someone rings the doorbell. It turns out that Aika and Ashita are there to visit him. The girls tell him how everyone in the class was worried, and show him the messages. Since Aika is unable to express her emotions clearly, she ends up yelling at Sayo once again before they leave. Sayo is back at school the next day, and Aika notices him talking to Marika in the hallway. It seems the blonde girl is after Aika and approaches her. Marika complains that only second-year students are eligible to become the president of the student council, so she formally asks for Aika's support in her campaign, explaining that not a single first-year student has applied for the position. This gives her an opening if she can build enough support. While she rambles, all of Marika's friends surround them, clearly trying to drink her soap water or something. Sayo immediately sees her strategy and intervenes, asking Marika if her plan is to simply use Aika as a poster girl. He bluntly points out the flaw in her logic. Aika's beauty and popularity are so immense that she would completely overshadow Marika, making the voters forget who the actual candidate is. Insulted by this accusation, Marika angrily demands to know what he means. With the entire class now watching, Sayo looks from the preppy girl to Aika and makes a clear, confident declaration that Aika is way prettier and has better-looking airbags on her chest. The statement electrifies the room. Everyone turns to look at Aika, whose face erupts in a deep blush. However, Sayo is genuinely confused by her reaction. He has been calling her a goddess countless times, so why is it different now? Ashita explains that this was a sincere compliment delivered as a defense in front of everyone. The public praise is too much for Aika to handle, so she drips some moist gravy inside her skirt while yelling at him. Seeing her bright red face, Sayo can't help but say how cute she looks. That single word is the final straw, making Aika even more embarrassed, and she runs away. The school day begins with Sayo at the blackboard, effortlessly solving a complex math problem that had stumped his NPC classmates. The teacher praises his work, and as he returns to his desk, Ashita leans over to tease him, surprised by his academic display. From his seat, Sayo glances over at Aika, noticing again how she is now constantly surrounded by a lively group of friends. When the lunch bell rings, he heads out to the school cafeteria. Sayo finds that all the tables are full, but just then, Uenami sees him and calls him over to the Public Morals Committee's table. Reluctantly, Sayo joins these wacky idiots for lunch, while wondering why they invited him. While Yu inquires about his poop disease, Shinomiya has other plans. She immediately cuts to the chase and formally asks if he would be interested in joining their committee, which shocks the beta male to his core. Shinomiya explains that she will be stepping down as president in a few months, and they have so far failed to recruit any male students. According to her, the current female candidates are more interested in the position as a status symbol rather than a responsibility. Shinomiya sees real potential in Sayo, reminding him of the assertive and helpful advice he gave her about the pole dancing. While he ponders this decision, Yu reaches out and takes his hand, earnestly wishing him good luck. The sudden physical contact sends Sayo into a panic. He pulls his hand away abruptly, which angers the other two senior girls. Realizing his mistake, he awkwardly grabs Yu's hand again, but this only makes the seniors lose their minds. Overwhelmed, Sayo makes a clumsy retreat and flees the table, solidifying their impression that he is not fit to represent the committee. He escapes into the school corridors to take a breath, only to run directly into Aika. She notices his hair is all messed up from his panicked escape. Not wanting to explain the awkward beatdown from the committee girls, he stays silent. But before he can react, Aika steps closer, tells him to stay still, and begins to fix his hair. The gentle touch is so unexpected that one might assume Sayo came in his pants right there. Completely flustered, he breaks the moment by offering to pay her 5,000 yen for the service. The absurd comment makes Aika angry, and she steps back, leaving him once again. Later, the entire student body gathers for a lecture from the school's leadership committees. The initial talks are boring, but when Shinomiya takes the stage, all the students are captivated. Moments later, the student council representatives appear, and Sayo observes the handsome and charismatic Yugo, who has all the girls swooning. Back in the classroom, the faceless turds are chattering about the assembly like it's the Oscars. However, the teacher tells everyone to shut their trap and announces they need to select one boy and one girl to be helpers for the tour. Since no one volunteers for such a whack job, the teacher decides to settle it with a game of rock, paper, scissors. Sayo is paired against a disgusting-looking classmate and quickly wins, saving himself from duty. Aika, on the other hand, loses her match and is obligated to take the responsibility of a tour guide. Seeing this, Sasaki immediately stands up and proposes to take the other boy's place, claiming he has always been a helpful guy. The teacher questions him about his inability to control his mayonnaise production, but Sasaki assures her that his biological instrument is fine. It's a strategic move to get closer to Aika, and everyone knows it. Meanwhile, Sayo looks on with contempt, secretly wishing he could be the one beside Aika. Ashita notices his expression and comments that Aika and Sasaki seem to be a good match. To disguise his true feelings, Sayo agrees, but she doesn't trust his mediocre acting. Ashita even calls him a loser for his lack of balls. And Sayo can't help but agree. With the first term over, the teacher announces the official start of summer vacation. As Sayo leaves, he glances back at his handsome friend Sasaki and simply walks away. Meanwhile, Aika stares at his retreating backside like it's a leprechaun. As the summer vacation begins, Sayo is working at his part-time job at a local bookstore. The manager praises him for his ability to work quickly and compliments him. Later, while sweeping the front of the store, Sayo notices 3 older boys ruthlessly bothering a small child. Without hesitation, he steps in like the Undertaker. The older boys quickly back off, calling Sayo an idiot before leaving. He then brings the frightened boy inside the store and learns that his name is Kota. Sayo calls for his relative, and soon after, his older sister with gigantic knockers arrives, dribbling them like LeBron James. The two reunite, and after Sayo explains what happened, the girl thanks him profusely. She tells her brother that he was lucky to have been saved by such a nice, gentle young man. The compliment makes Sayo feel incredibly happy and flustered, as he has never been praised by such a beautiful girl before. Later that evening, Sayo is in the kitchen, happily reminiscing about his day. Just then, Kaede walks in with her bouncing juggernauts and orders him to make her a cup of coffee. As they sit, Kaede asks about the offer he received to join the Public Morals Committee, which she heard about from Shinomiya. Sayo says he's not interested as it's too much responsibility. Hearing this, Kaede suggests he join the student council instead, which would be more convenient for her. Sayo realizes that his sister will be resigning from the position soon, but even then, he does not want to commit himself to a wacky job. Kaede simply tells him to think about it and leaves the kitchen. The next day at the bookstore, Susu, Kota's sister, visits him again. She wants to thank him once more for what he did for her brother. Susu reveals that his presence had a positive influence on the little brat, who is now playing outside without fear. The two end up talking for an hour, with her easy charm making Sayo shy multiple times. Before leaving, Fuka shyly hands him a present and promises to come back again. Once inside the bookstore, Sayo opens it, only to find a stupid shark-themed scarf. Despite it being childish, he is touched by the loving gesture. The following day, Sayo finds himself walking beside Fuka, as the gentle sea breeze rolls in from the ocean. The girl seems to be head over heels for the stud, and for some reason she has decided to dress like Monkey D. Luffy. Just then, a strong gust of wind hits them, and Sayo notices a beautiful bracelet on Fuka's hand. She also notices the stupid shark handkerchief that Sayo is still using. She gets overjoyed that he's using her gift, while Sayo just stands there like Joe Biden. Later at the bookstore, Fuka arrives looking gorgeous, and the two start talking to each other. Sayo notices the same bracelet he saw earlier and compliments it, hoping to get laid. Fuka finds his compliment genuine, and she explains that her father bought it from a local handmade shop. As she approaches Sayo and touches his arm, he almost leaks his oil, but immediately hinks about Aika's birthday. He decides that he wants to buy Aika a gift for her birthday from this stupid handmade shop. Seeing a perfect opportunity, he asks Fuka if she would accompany him, to which she gladly agrees. Now as they venture out to the shop, Fuka seems slightly awkward, worried that someone might see them and get the wrong idea. She adds that her outfit is way too stylish to go into the store and says she wants to get dressed in her casual clothes. Impulsively, Sayo glances at her juicy melons and immediately breaks into a stinky sweat. However, he comforts the hottie, saying the outfit looks good on her. Meanwhile, a parallel trip is underway. Ashita, Aika, and her energetic little sister Irie are also heading out to enjoy a day at the ocean. On their way, they pass by Sayo's house. Ashita comes up with the idea to ring his doorbell and invite him along, but there's no answer. Assuming he's busy with his part-time job, the three of them continue, unaware that he is heading to the very same coastline. Sayo and Fuka take a break at the beach to enjoy the ocean view. She teases him, asking if he wants to see girls in swimsuits, to which he immediately refuses. Fuka mentions that she hates swimming because she has to buy a new swimsuit every year, as her juggernauts keep getting bigger. Sayo's carrot maximizes for a second, but Fuka changes the conversation and instead rubs her chest on his body. Sayo gets nervous about this, and the girl immediately apologizes. Later, the two arrive at the handmade craft shop. The owner greets Fuka warmly, recognizing her as a returning customer. As they browse the countless shells and stones, Sayo feels overwhelmed, unsure of what would make the perfect gift for Aika. The owner tries to help him out, but Sayo's brain cannot comprehend this simple task. Fuka notices his frustration and asks if the present is for someone he likes. Seeing no way out of it, Sayo tells her the truth about his one-sided crush. Fuka gets ecstatic hearing this and promises to help him choose the best gift ever. She shows him a pink shell, but Sayo thinks it looks like a discarded unicorn ball. Seeing him lost in thought, Fuka asks who this girl is, and he explains his long one-sided history with a girl who never returned his feelings. Being a nosy little chick, Fuka asks for more information, and he confesses that Aika rejected him multiple times, but he doesn't seem to get hurt by it. His love for her was the motivation that pushed him to study harder and get into their school. He clarifies that he no longer expects a relationship, but he still wants to give her this gift as a token of gratitude. He adds that if a stupid gift brings a smile to her face, then he will be completely satisfied. His heartfelt confession touches Fuka's ovaries, as she recognizes his genuine efforts for this other girl. Feeling a bit lighter, Sayo decides to stop overthinking and just choose something from the heart. On the other hand, Aika, Ashida, and Airi are enjoying their time at the beach. After jumping around like animals, they sit down to cool off. Just then, they notice the same handmade craft shop in the distance and decide to visit it. Meanwhile, as Sayo looks around the shop, his eyes land on a painting on the wall. It's a picture of a younger Fuka, and Sayo is stunned. From her outfit, he realizes it's a middle school uniform. He had assumed this entire time that Fuka was a mature college student. However, it turns out that she is still a child who is currently a middle schooler. Moments later, Sayo starts cutting up a shell to make a custom gift for his crush, Aika. While he's at it, Fuka jumps around to motivate him, which only ends up distracting his ding-dong. Later, while his flagpole cools down, the two start talking about love. Fuka claims she has never had a boyfriend, and gets embarrassed. But Sayo tells her that when someone falls in love, they finally become mature. Moments later, Aika, Ashida, and Airi arrive at the very same craft shop. They are told that craft making for the day is over, but they can still look at the products. As they browse, Aika's sister Airi notices a new picture on the wall, the one featuring Sayo and Fuka from their earlier visit. Later, as the three girls are eating near the beach, Aika catches a fleeting glimpse of a boy in the distance. It was so fast that she couldn't be sure, but her heart lurches with the possibility that it was Sayo. When Aika mentions she might have just seen him, Ashida dismisses the idea, jokingly saying he might be on a date. Aika finds this idea ridiculous, though a seed of jealous suspicion has been planted in her mind. As evening falls, Fuka and Sayo head home on the bus, where they once again talk about the birds and the bees. Exhausted from the day, Fuka eventually falls asleep as her head nods off. Sayo watches her for a moment before turning his attention to his phone as a message comes in. It's from his classmate, Ashida, who has sent a message to their group chat. When Sayo opens it, his eyes widen. It's a photo of Aika in a swimsuit, running like a squirrel on the beach. A wave of flustered panic rushes to his face as he realizes that Ashida, Aika, and her sister had been at the same beach. During a quiet shift at the bookstore, Sujo asks the owner what his plan is for when the summer break ends, and he can no longer work. The old man excitedly tells him that he's already in the process of hiring a girl with a massive backside. He tells Sujo that he'll soon be a professor and will need to guide his students. As the old man leaves, Sujo's enthusiasm for his duties is revealed to be non-existent as he simply gazes at the books. Just then, the bell on the door chimes, and a girl with a quiet, thin voice calls out to him. He turns and recognizes her immediately. It's Mina Ichinose, the timid girl who sits next to him in class. She explains that she saw the recruitment sign, and is here to apply for the part-time job. Sayo can't help but wonder if someone so shy would be able to handle customer service. He goes to get the owner, who is weirdly overjoyed for some reason. It turns out that Mina is a regular customer and a true book lover, making her a perfect fit to work in this bookstore. Later, as Mina shows her resume to him, the owner hires her without a second thought. He then introduces Mina to his wife, who is equally welcoming but immediately points out that Mina's long bangs will get in the way of her work. Before Sayo can process what's happening, the owner's wife pulls out a pair of scissors like a psychopath, offering to cut Mina's hair right then and there. Immediately, Sayo steps in to save this little introverted girl. He thinks about his approach for a while, and then formally introduces himself as her classmate and future co-worker. He cleverly asks her if her bangs ever get in the way when she reads, and if so, what she does about it. Mina quietly replies that she uses hairpins and demonstrates pinning them back. This is the first time Sayo has seen her stupid little disgusting face. Thankfully, the simple, elegant solution satisfies the owner's wife, and the crisis is averted. Sayo tells Mina he looks forward to working with her, and his first day as a senpai begins. The next day, Sayo tries to teach Mina the ropes, but her shyness is a significant hurdle. Her responses are slow, almost non-verbal, which has started to bother him. First, he tells Mina to fix her emo-looking hair, and she immediately ties it up. Later, Sayo shows her how to organize the shelves, and reminds her that she must respond to customers with words, not just nods. When a customer finally enters, it's the worst-case scenario, an intense idiosyncratic otaku who corners the terrified Mina at the counter. He launches into a tirade about the store not selling 50 Shades of Grey, overwhelming her with his passionate and aggressive talk. Sayo sees the situation spiraling and steps in, quickly handling the transaction and sending the customer on his way. When he turns back to Mina, he notices the girl is on the verge of tears and gets freaked out. Later, Sayo walks up to the owner and has a serious discussion. He argues that Mina is not suitable for this job, since she is a whiny little girl who is so dumb that Forrest Gump can beat her in chess. The owner is disappointed but trusts Sayo to fire her from the job and asks him to perform the execution. Sayo finds Mina in the back room with the owner's wife. After the woman leaves, Sayo delivers a dose of harsh reality to the little chick. He tells her that working with the public is difficult and asks if she truly believes she can handle annoying customers without breaking down. As Mina listens to him, Sayo tells her to quit the job and go back to being a customer because she cannot talk to people. As stupid as this idea is, something snaps in Mina's miniature brain. With tears in her eyes, she looks at him and says she does not want to quit. Mina bows her head in front of him and begs him to let her keep her part-time job. This freaks out Sayo, who tells her to lift her stupid head. Her unexpected determination leaves him speechless. Just then, the owner enters the room and agrees to give Mina one more chance to prove herself. That night, Sayo is at home, using his cell phone to pass the time. He notices a group video call with Aika and Ashita and immediately joins it. Aika, however, turns her video off in embarrassment, so he starts talking with Ashita. He explains what happened at work, how he made a girl bow her head, and how bad he feels about it. Ashita immediately assumes the girl won't show up to work the next day. Aika finally speaks up and offers a different perspective. She tells Sayo that it wasn't his fault because as her senior he did the right thing by being honest about her performance. Her encouragement surprises and comforts him. Seeing the two of them connecting, Ashita makes a sly excuse about being called to the bath and abruptly leaves the call. As Sayo and Aika are alone together, the atmosphere is filled with lustful flavor. However, after just a minute, this idiot Sayo, not knowing how to proceed, abruptly ends the call. This causes Aika to feel a little upset and disappointed. The next day at work, Sayo is stunned to see a huge difference in Mina. She is proactive, communicative, and trying her absolute best to do every task correctly. Her positive change is so dramatic that he almost pats her on the head like a dog. During their break, he finally asks her the question that's been on his mind. Why is she so desperate to work this part-time job? Mina looks down for a moment before she begins to explain. She tells him she wants to become independent, specifically from her older brother, who is also on the morals committee. Mina describes how incredibly close she and her brother used to be. She loved reading with him, often sitting on his lap, but everything changed one day when he brought a girl named Yuri to his room. Sayo immediately regrets asking her this stupid question as Mina continues narrating the story. She explains that one day, she ran to her brother's room to see what they were doing. As she opened the door, she saw the girl on top of her brother making love and couldn't seem to shake that memory from her head. Sayo is traumatized by this story, and all he can do is scream from the top of his lungs. After hearing Mina Ichino's heartfelt story, Sayo finally understands the fierce determination behind her timid exterior. He realizes that her part-time job isn't just about earning money. It's a declaration of independence, a way to carve out her own space away from a complicated family situation. He watches her at work with a newfound respect. She is no longer just the shy girl from his class, but a person fighting her own quiet battles. Her diligence is remarkable. She is more proactive and organized, and Sayo feels a genuine sense of pride in her progress. He figures she likely has no one else to talk to, which is why she opened up to him, and he feels a certain responsibility as her senpai to continue supporting her. A few days later, the girl with giant melons, Fuka, visits the bookstore again. Sayo introduces the two, and they greet each other politely. Wanting Mina to have a genuine conversation with another girl, he steps back and lets them chatter like crows. Sayo is happy to see them getting along, feeling that a friendship with the cheerful Fuka is exactly what Mina needs. The two immediately fall into a deep conversation about books. Fuka asks Mina what her favorite book is, and Mina explains that she often chooses books based on their cover and title. This answer delights Fuka, who shares a similar passion. They bond quickly, and Mina even recommends a favorite book, which Fuka promises to read. Later, since the store has no customers, Sayo decides it's the perfect time to work on Mina's customer service skills. He proposes a role-playing simulation to help her practice. He takes on the persona of a difficult, troublesome customer, asking her a series of tricky questions. While Mina fumbles her way through the ridiculous scenario, Fuka watches from a distance. Eventually, she also gets into the spirit of it and acts as another problematic client. Despite being nervous initially, Mina handles the simulation surprisingly well, using the confidence she has been slowly building. The exercise is a success, and Sayo feels satisfied that he is preparing Mina for when he eventually leaves the job. The revelation that he'll be leaving seems to hurt Mina, and she quietly walks away from him. While Sayo stands there confused, the girl starts working on the shelves by herself. As he leaves for home, he wonders whether Mina will be able to handle things on her own after he quits his part-time job. That evening, he pours a glass of milk and gulps it down. Just then, his sister Kaede enters the kitchen and lounges on the sofa in her typical fashion. She then orders him to make her a hot cup of coffee. Even then, Sayo's mind is fixated on the emo chick from the bookstore. and how she has no one else to talk to. He feels a distinct sense of responsibility for her well-being. As Sayo hands the coffee to Kaede, she stirs it and takes a big sip. Unlike other times, she does not insult him. Kaede simply hands the cup back to Sayo and gets up to leave. The stud gets confused by this reaction and tastes it himself. Immediately, he recoils in disgust, realizing he accidentally used salt instead of sugar. Back at the bookstore, Mina is working diligently under Sayo's guidance when he notices a cookbook on the table, making her slightly embarrassed. It turns out she learned to cook eggs to surprise her brother, but when she went to meet him, she was greeted by his girlfriend Yuri instead. She had cooked for both of them, but since they didn't like the taste, Mina was deeply hurt. Meanwhile, the fragile peace at the bookstore is shattered by the arrival of a tense-looking young panda, who happens to be Mina's older brother. He had finally tracked her down, hoping to talk. As he tries to approach his sister, Mina gets terrified and immediately hides behind Sayo, refusing to speak to him. Acting as her shield, Sayo calmly steers them to a nearby cafe to talk things over properly. Once inside, the confrontation unfolds. The panda apologizes to Mina for neglecting her after he started dating Yuri and pleads with her to continue their brother-sister relationship. Just then, the panda's girlfriend Yuri joins them. They both seem to think that Mina is too fragile for a customer service job. Yuri insists that she must quit, framing it as their duty to protect her. Throughout their lecture, the panda and his girlfriend treat Mina like a little child, who is incapable of making her own decisions. Seeing her silent and distressed, Sayo finally intervenes in their family discussion. He passionately defends Mina, telling them they haven't seen her growth. He describes her courage in facing difficult customers, her proactive work ethic, and her careful handling of the books. He tells the panda that thinking his sister should always remain under his wing is wrong. At last, Sayo declares that the couple has to trust Mina to build her life in her own way. This powerful speech leaves the dumb couple speechless, and Mina looks at him with tears of profound gratitude in her eyes. Finally, the panda couple seems to understand what the misunderstanding really was. The scene shifts to the school, where Aika is walking through the quiet hallway. Sasaki approaches her from behind to sniff her backside. They then exchange pleasantries, commenting on the quietness of the school and how much they've changed their appearances during the summer break. Soon the two walk together to an empty classroom to organize their materials for the tour. Aika takes a seat at a desk and pulls out her phone. She goes through her group chat with Ishida and Sayo and lets out a gentle smile. Just then, Sasaki returns to her desk and hands her a piece of paper. But instead of moving on, he sits beside her like a creep, making it awkward for Aika. The scene returns to the bookstore, where Sayo is checking in on Mina. Fuka is also there, and the two girls start chatting yet again. Sayo is happy that they are connecting so well. He gently approaches Mina, takes her trainee name tag, and removes it. She has now successfully passed her training. The little girl has no words to describe her happiness as Sayo and Fuka lovingly gaze at her. On another hot summer day, Sayo is outside the bookstore, lightly spraying the pavement with water to cool the air. He is lost in his own thoughts when a cheerful voice calls his name. He looks up to see Fuka and her gigantic set of airbags hanging off her chest. She playfully comments on the heat, fanning herself and playing with her hair. As they are chatting, the little girl Mina comes to the door and stands there like a freaking mascot, making it awkward for everyone. Inside the cool bookstore, the two girls immediately dive into an animated conversation about a nostalgic fantasy book series they both love. Fuka mentions that a particular book in the series is out of print, but to Mina's absolute delight, she reveals she has a copy and promises to lend it to her. Sayo watches them from a distance, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. He's happy to see the once timid Mina opening up and making a genuine friend. As he puts away some books, his phone buzzes with a notification. It's a message in a group chat for the upcoming school visit tour. Someone has sent a poorly taken photo of the student guides at their orientation meeting. Sayo scrolls through the messages and saves the picture, his eyes focused on Aika, who looks beautiful even in the blurry shot. Later that night at home, he sits down with his sister and offers her a glass of a cold drink. She then compliments Sayo for doing his part-time job diligently and also helping Mina in the meantime. While he is shocked by how she got this information, Kaede boasts that she has an extensive intelligence network. Sayo mocks her for being intrusive, and she almost kicks him in his disgusting, stupid-looking, creepy face. Now that his part-time job is ending, Kaede makes a proposition. He should help with the school visit tour. She claims that the event is short-staffed, and even with the student council's help, the Public Morals Committee is overwhelmed. Sayo is clearly hesitant, but Kaede convinces him by framing it as a way to help with Mina's brother issues, knowing he feels responsible for her. Cornered from all angles, the poor dude has no option but to agree. Kaede then forces him to call Shinomiya right then and there to offer his help. The call is incredibly awkward. Shinomiya is initially surprised by the late-night call and gently refuses his offer, saying they can handle it. But Kaede, listening in the background, pushes him not to give up. Since he is at a metaphorical gunpoint, Sayo blurts out that, regardless of the work, he wants to see her in person. His forwardness leaves Shinomiya completely flustered on the other end of the line. After a moment of stunned silence, she accepts his offer, but warns him that it will be purely manual labor. Now fully committed to the bid, Sayo replies that if it's for her sake, it will be a piece of cake. With this, he earns an outstanding thumbs up from his sister's feet. The day of the school visit arrives. Sayo meets Shinomiya, who explains his responsibilities. Since the phone call the night before was riddled with lustful tendencies, Shinomiya seems a little shy talking to him. While Sayo tries to play it cool, she mentions that he is like a brother to her. She explains that the student council will handle the glamorous tours, while the public morals committee is in charge of the grunt work, transporting materials, and preparing the venues. In her eyes, they are the unsung heroes of this event. Shinomiya also notes that with their committee being mostly girls, his help is invaluable. Sayo jokes that it's a blessed opportunity to show off his manliness, earning a playful shove from Shinomiya. Meanwhile, Aika is in a completely different world. She's one of the star guides, paired with Sasaki. Her thoughts, however, are not on the tour. When Sasaki asks her if she wants to join him in the football tournament, she politely refuses. Aika starts reflecting on her past, about how she always felt suffocated by her family's financial situation. She had no time for fun or friends, and always felt lonely. One day, while she was having lunch by herself, Sayo the stud crashed into her life. Aika saw herself in this helpless boy and helped him. She also remembers how Sayo thanked her formally on the terrace the next day, but the weird stud also ended up confessing his love at first sight. Naturally, Aika rejected him, since she was extremely distracted by her family situation. But Sayo never gave up. He was always there with his constantly positive and incredibly annoying creepiness. Aika seems to finally realize that Sayo's relentless pursuit, which she hated for a long time, had actually helped her with her mental health. The rumors about the strange boy following her had made other students notice her, talk to her, and slowly her world began to expand. In a flashback, as graduation from middle school approached, there was a brief period when Sayo didn't appear, and she felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. But her world changed on the day the high school acceptance lists were posted. She saw her name on the board for Kaotsu High, and felt a surge of excitement. She immediately called her mother to share the news. Just as she was about to leave, Sayo approached her. He had also managed to get into Kaotsu High, as his only goal was to remain close to Aika. As they walked down the corridor, he continued to pamper her and tell her how cute she was, but all Aika did was remain embarrassed and shout at him. Now, in the present, with Sayo so distant, Aika is overwhelmed by a feeling of loss. She realizes just how much she misses his presence. A desperate need to see him and talk to him takes over her mind. Aika begins to run like a convict, searching for him through the empty halls of the school. Sayo's memories flood her mind. His voice, his ridiculous compliments, and his recent promise not to bother her anymore. Just then, Aika spots him in the distance carrying a chair and runs after him, but he disappears into another room before she can catch up. Her frantic search continues, and she goes through the entire school to find him. As she runs through the corridor, Aika finally bumps right into him. The impact sends both of them stumbling to the ground, with Aika landing in a provocative posture for Sayo. But this time, he looks straight into her loving eyes as she looks back at him. As the two get up, Sayo stretches his body like a golden retriever. Aika finds this cute somehow, and he sheepishly mentions how he has been doing manual labor for the school tour. Aika's next words send a jolt through him, as she admits she saw him working earlier. She suddenly steps closer, invading his personal space in a way she never had before. Aika takes a small sniff of his disgusting armpits and states matter-of-factly that he smells like sweat. The proximity and the intimacy of the gesture leave him completely frozen. This was a distance she had never allowed. Sayo struggles to process it, and he rationalizes it as a fluke, thinking that her ovaries must be malfunctioning after not having seen him for a while. While Aika fans herself, Sayo asks her why she was running so frantically through the corridors. After a moment of hesitation, she confesses that she wanted to see him in person. This is totally not what Sayo was expecting, and Aika even claims that she missed him during the holidays. This is all too much for him to handle, so he simply shifts the conversation to his part-time job, claiming that his working relationship with Mina has improved significantly. This causes a flicker in Aika's expression, almost like a hint of jealousy. Sayo never intended to make her sad, so he compliments Aika, noting that she got a tan over the break. This reminds her of the beach trip with Ashita, which in turn reminds Sayo of the swimsuit photo. Immediately, Aika's face flushes with anger. She demands he hand over his phone so she can delete it, but Sayo instinctively grabs her hand to stop her. As the lovers stay frozen in the moment, they are interrupted by Ashita with a cheerful greeting. To reset the mood, Sayo buys orange juice from a vending machine. They find a bench to sit on, and Ashita talks about her volleyball club, mentioning she's a likely candidate to be a starter next year. The conversation then turns back to Sayo's tan. He almost lets it slip that he was at the same beach as them, but stops himself, not wanting to explain his outing with Fuka. His nervousness is clearly visible, and Ashita gives him a suspicious look. Sensing the discomfort, Aika pats the spot on the bench between her and Ashita, and Sayo sits down like a toddler. They start talking about the school tour, and Sayo makes a self-deprecating joke about how guys like him with small carrots can never be tour guides. Ashita teases him, asking if he was jealous and wanted to be in Sasaki's place next to Aika. He denies it, but Aika comes to his rescue. She insists that he would have been a great help, pointing to the competent way he guided Mina through her problems at the bookstore. Kei then jokes that Sayo bothering people is just part of his nature. Aika agrees but adds that he should take it easy and not bother Mina too much. This lighthearted comment hits a raw nerve. Sayo's expression darkens, and he claims he will never bother anyone anymore. Aika realizes that her casual words have caused him so much pain. She tries to get close to him, and he notices her hand creeping next to him. Just then, Aika gets up and asks if he'll be at school tomorrow for the tour. He mentions that he has a little work left to do, but promises to come and sniff her backside. The next day, the school is bustling with visiting middle schoolers. The charismatic student council president Yugo is on stage, effortlessly captivating the young audience. Sayo, from his position among the manual labor crew, watches the scene unfold. He sees Aika, looking like a princess, smiling sympathetically at the students, and he can't help but feel like a lowly servant in comparison. Outside, Sasaki is greeting his assigned tour group of middle schoolers, which includes Fuka and her friends. He introduces them to Aika, and one of the girls immediately asks about their relationship, causing Sasaki to blush. However, Aika calmly clarifies that they are just classmates, which naturally makes Sasaki a little sad. The tour begins, with both Aika and Sasaki proving to be excellent guides. During a walk through the halls, they encounter a group of rowdy boys bothering Reena Aizawa. Aika steps in with a surprising and powerful confidence, staring them down and declaring that the school doesn't need troublemakers like them. Her authoritative demeanor leaves the boys speechless, and impresses Aizawa as well. As the tour continues, Fuka gushes to her friends about Sayo, saying she wants him to be their guide next time. Her friends tease her relentlessly about her obvious crush. Later, even the troublemakers approach Aika and apologize to her for being a bunch of Republicans earlier. After they finish with their group, Sayo and another committee member pass by carrying some equipment. Aika spots them, but Fuka takes the lead. She shouts Sayo's name and runs towards him, while Sasaki and Aika follow close behind. Sayo is caught off guard as the group of girls surrounds him. Fuka's friends excitedly tell him how he went out on a date with her, and how he is such a polite gentleman. Aika listens to all of this with a complicated expression. However, Fuka gets completely embarrassed and eventually leaves with her annoying little friends. Later, Ashita starts teasing Sayo about being a polite gentleman. Aika is still confused, as she has a bunch of questions that are laced with jealousy. She questions Sayo about everything she just heard. With no other options, he decides to tell them the entire story. Moments later, the girls are satisfied with the story, but Aika still wants to delete the swimsuit photo from Sayo's phone to prevent him from playing with his little Japanese carrot. However, Sayo promises to look at the photo only once a day. Realizing that she kind of loves him now, Aika says that he can keep the photo on one condition. She looks him straight in the eye and asks Sayo to hang out with her and Ashita from now on. The stunned Sayo cheerfully accepts this deal, making Ashita glad that her friends are morphing into a couple. On a rainy afternoon near the end of the summer break, Sajo is working a quiet shift at the bookstore. He is working with Mina and moving some books to protect them from the damp air. Just as it starts raining, he is surprised to see Aika running towards him with her jiggling balloons, seeking shelter from the downpour. As they get inside the bookstore, Mina immediately hands her a towel to dry up her moisture. Sajo is still confused by her appearance in the bookstore, so he asks Aika what she was doing out in the rain. She explains that she was nearby and simply wanted to hang out with him. Sajo cannot believe what he just heard, but Aika continues with her jealous questions. As Mina overhears their conversation from a distance, Aika wants him to stop working at the bookstore and sniff her backside instead. As if the situation wasn't complicated enough, the bell chimes again, and Fuka arrives, also soaked from the rain. She comes inside and greets Arata, who immediately uses a towel to dry her gigantic wet airbags. Just then, Mina greets her from a distance, and Fuka excitedly goes inside the back room. Aika looks on with a complicated expression as the two girls quickly fall into an easy, animated conversation about books. Feeling like an outsider, Aika makes a slightly jealous comment about how well Sayo seems to get along with both of these girls. However, he deflects the conversation, telling her that he is simply a friendly guy. This statement hits closer to home than he intended, and Aika angrily tries to leave the bookstore. However, when Sajo tries to stop her, Aika's foot slips on the wet floor and she loses her balance. Instinctively, Sajo manages to catch her in his arms, as they are frozen in a classic romantic pose. As the two stare lovingly at each other, Mina and Fuka are witnessing the entire intimate moment from a distance. However, they immediately close the door to give the two lovers some privacy to fiddle with their private parts. Now that they are alone, The air becomes thick with romantic tension. Aika changes the subject back to their plan to hang out. She formally invites Sayo to her house, but this time she clarifies the reason. She wants him to be a kind older brother to her sister Irie. The direct and somewhat strange request leaves Sayo completely flustered, but he takes this as a compliment and agrees to come. This marks the beginning of their long-awaited relationship. A few days later, a nervous Sayo arrives with Ashita at Aika's house. Seeing him flustered, Ashita takes the initiative and rings the doorbell. They are soon greeted not only by Aika but also by her energetic little sister, Irie. To everyone's surprise, Irie takes an immediate and intense liking to Sayo. She climbs onto his back, demanding piggyback rides, and he, unable to refuse, spends the next hour crawling around the living room floor completely at her command. Seeing the dead look in his face, Aika picks up the little girl and saves his life for some time. In just a few seconds, Irie goes back to play with Sayo, which brings a warm smile to both Aika and Ashita's faces. Later, all of them sit together and grab a glass of cold drink. Seiho mockingly mentions that Arata is just as irritating as her older sister, making Aika slightly mad at him. Even Ashita teases her, and she starts gently punching her on the back. After hours of being a donkey for Irie, Sayo sits in a moment of quiet reflection. However, his peace is soon interrupted by the arrival of Aika's mother. As she enters, her eyes land on Sayo, and a look of recognition crosses her face. After he introduces himself, the mother smiles and says she's heard a lot about him from Aika's stories. This revelation sends a shockwave through the room. Later, as they are all leaving, Airi and her mother wave a sweet goodbye to Sayo. As the three walk together, they plan on meeting once again next weekend. Just then, Ashita slyly makes an excuse and peels off, hoping to give the two lovebirds some alone time. Now Aika walks a little further with Sayo, as the evening breeze hits them gently. The mood between them becomes charged and intimate. Aika finally opens up, explaining how much more fun school has been for her lately. Ever since that cafeteria incident with Sayo, her life has been so much happier. While he struggles to come up with a response, Aika looks at him and claims she is extremely grateful for everything he has done for her. She explains that his annoying face and relentless pursuit helped her break out of her isolated shell. Sayo is still weighed down by guilt for nagging her all these years, but Aika quickly corrects him. She tells him she was always emotionally closed off in school, and Sayo was the one who changed things. Aika confesses that, even with all her new friends, she felt like something was still missing. She looks at him with tears in her eyes and tells him that she misses him every day he's not around. Aika adds that she wants to be around him every day and wants to be in a relationship. Just as the weight of her words settles between them, the summer night is shattered by the sudden loud burst of a firework. Aika, who has a fear of loud noises, instinctively throws herself into his arms, clinging to him tightly. In the quiet moment after, as they stand close together, she looks up at him and tells him how much she loves him. As they stand there, a beautiful feeling lingers in the air. Sayo hesitantly reaches for her hand, but gets insecure about it. Seeing this, Aika takes the initiative herself, and their hands gently intertwine. He holds her hand tightly, and they walk the rest of the way home in a comfortable shared silence. The next day, in a perfect reversal of how their story began, it is Aika who is waiting for Sayo on the way to school. She fixes his tie like a sitcom wife, and the two set out for school. Their relationship is no longer a one-sided dream anymore, but a shared reality. If you want to see more videos like this, comment naughty below. Until then, subscribe, like, and share this video with all of your friends.